That was my first day.
That was your first day?
Yeah.
Oh,
And
time flies.
I know.
It's almost 1 year, 1.5 years later.
And I think other than Keiko, you were the first person in a Giants group that I met.
That by that time, I don't think you had made your decision yet.
Yeah,
where
that
you're
was
going,
when I
right?
was still in the beginning phases. We go way back.
I know. That's good to know.
Okay, so what is your background, Peter?
All my degrees are in engineering.
Where did you do undergrad again?
So, snapshot, how it all started. So back in the days, back in Kenya, you know, you are like 5, 6 years old. You know, the way our school system is not like what you guys have here. Ours is completely, you know, it's completely different. I don't know, sometimes it's really hard to define that system, because that system is, you know, it's kind of, you can call it like a filtering system. That's what it does. It's like a pyramid, the way it goes. But even though here, you guys also say, you know, there's a lot of people start, they finish. In the US, people drop out. Back there, people don't drop out. It's the system which makes them drop out. That's the difference. You know, for you to move from one class to the other, you have to be, you know, you have to pass an exam. So I remember from primary school all the way up to university, you must have passed, like, let me see, 1, 2, 3, like 4 examinations, national examination.
Wow.
There's one body which decides who goes where.
So what's like the percentage of people that make it?
I'll give you the number. So that's like what I told you. 5, 6 years I go to school, and then around 11, 12 years I was in this, just like, you know, I don't know if you guys, we call them public schools. So I was there doing well and everything. So one time we have these, you know, politicians, like member of parliament for that region. So he comes to the school, and then, you know, one of my teachers is like, "Oh, we have a very good student here." He said, "Oh, that's that." So, you know, he see my grades and everything, and then he's like, you know, 2 weeks later, he's like, "Oh, I would like to take him to my school, you know,
Oh,
and
that's
pay
so
for
cool.
the school fees and everything."
Wait, so
Private
how
now.
old were you then?
I think 10, 11. somewhere around.
So they try to scout you early.
Exactly. So I started going to boarding school when I was like 11 years. And since then, it's always a funny fact I always tell people. Since then, I've never stayed home for more than like 2 weeks. Like complete 2 weeks, I'm just home. Like with parents and things like that. But then, you know, it was a good primary school. Then from there, so from there, for us, the system is always from primary school you go to high school. From high school you go to undergrads. So what happened is, from primary school there's one examination which is done by everybody in the country. And then what happened before that examination, we have top high schools. So those are, we call them national schools. So what happened is, before you do the exam, there's a form whereby you choose, my first school is going to be this, second school is going to be this, third school is going to be this. I think they gave you like 3 options. Not 3, they give you like 3 options for national school, 3 options for like provincial school, like the ones that are now regional now, and then finally the local ones. So now once you pass that examination, that's when you can go to those top schools. And those top schools, guess what? You know, especially the good ones, like the really good, like those high school, they pick the best person in that district. So assuming that you have the district from, for example, here, maybe, let's say, for example, I'll give you let's do an analogy like this. Say you have a school somewhere in the US, and then everybody does the SATs, and then that school only pick the best student from each state
Oh my gosh.
to go to that school.
And this is for your national high school.
Yeah, so those are national schools. So, you know.
So the statistics of, so only the tops.
Of course.
So you were one of the tops.
I don't like to brag about it, but I was one of the guy who was, you know, so I passed that stuff. So I was the best in that district.
Okay.
Then I went to
What
that high
district
school.
was it that you were
So
in?
this was the district is called Kuria district. I haven't, but now they have changed everything. They do all the like
redrawn
do
lines
yeah
and everything.
redrawn. You know, Africa is always like that. When people are not happy, we don't like those people. You know, they will redraw their borders and everything. So I finished, went to that high school. It's one of the best high school actually in Kenya. It's called Alliance High School. So it was started by these colonial people, where they used to take these missionaries. Where they used to take like their kids. Actually, some of the best high school we have, most of them were started by the colonialist guys. It was just for them. So once we got independence, now they started to integrate like the African blah blah slowly, and then finally, you know, which kind of like we took over. So I went there, Alliance High School, spent 4 years, did my best I could, and then from there you college now. So college again, you meet another examination. So this examination, I remember our time, that was like 2003, that's when I did my high school examination. I remember that year we were like, the whole country, it was like more than 250,000 people who did that examination. And the university spaces were only 11,000.
Oh my gosh. Oh, you have to be top of the top of the top.
11,000. So now you have to make the cut.
You made it.
Of course, you know, it's really hard. You know, we have our system, the Indians, the Chinese, we have like a similar system. It's a cutthroat competition, you know. There's no in between. It's not like here you sit down with your parents, you decide, oh, SAT, and then you decide which schools you want to apply to.
Like the top tier,
Exactly.
middle,
Oh, top tier, middle,
school.
blah blah, safe school. There, it's one examination. Everybody's judged the same. So you pass that examination, you go to wherever you want to go. So I did that examination, and then I passed. Of course, I was among the 11,000. Then I went to this undergraduate Egerton University, industrial engineering and manufacturing. So even when we were in college, we used to have like a high school within the university, because the university is huge. So Fridays, you know, stuff like that, we'll go there, teach maths, teach physics, you know, to some of those kids.
Oh, that's great,
You know,
Peter.
it started a long time ago.
And you still do it now, though?
Yeah,
like
I
in
still
Mexico.
do it, of course. Oh yeah, I was in Mexico last year, did the same program for like a week. So it's a good thing to give back. That's the best way you can give back.
Aww.
Because when you don't have money, that's the best way you can give back. So we finished that. I finished that. Then when I was in college, I felt like, you know, before I start working and make money, I need to volunteer. Sometimes I always think when you are young, you know, you are like, you go change the world. I don't know if you're crazy, I don't know. So I was like, I'll go volunteer, you know, work for a non-government organization, the Children of Kibera Foundation. It was started by a guy who came here and then he went back.
To Rice or to the
No,
US?
he came to the US and then he went back. So he started this organization whereby he was kind of like trying to gather money for paying school fees for those kids. So for him, his idea is completely different from like these these aids, the way they always do. You know, here people are always told to contribute, blah blah, you know, send money to Africa. So his idea was completely revolutionary. For him, he was like, there's no point of giving parents, I don't know, food and stuff like that. That's not the best way. The best way, let us educate their kids. Because if you educate their kids, once that kid is successful, guess what? You've saved the whole family. So this family will never come back again to you to ask you for, you know, we always call them like handouts. They will never come back to you again. So he had this, he had like a computer program. He started giving some few computers to some school. So he put me on charge, tell me, you know, fix this stuff because it was kind of like dying. So I did my best, you know, do a little bit of stuff, fix it. So when I was in that organization, some professors from here come to that organization, you know, once in a while, from the US. So I meet this lady. She was called Cynthia Sellers. So we talk, you know. She's like, "Oh, your boss is happy about you. You are doing a nice job." I was like, "I'm trying my best, you know." So we talk. I get our contacts, and that's it. So after that organization, I go work for the government for like 1 year. They are doing like power production using geothermal. So I worked for those guys for 1 year. And then after 1 year, I realized, this is not what I want to do the rest of my life. I feel like there's something missing. I need to do something more. So that's when I started applying
And
for
you
the
had your
masters now.
connection.
Yes, so because I already talked to this lady, so I went back. I said, I remember I have one contact from the US. So I contacted her. She's like, yeah, go ahead and apply. Blah, blah. And the good thing about it is, because the high school I went to, it's one of the best high schools. So majority of the guys we went to high school with, they were already here. I was just a lazy person who did not want to come after high school. So they were already here. I remember there's a guy, he's called Itela, he was at Notre Dame.
Okay.
So it's kind of like he was the one who, he was like, telling me how the procedures and everything, how to apply and everything. And then I ended up in Tuskegee,
That's right.
Alabama.
You did your master's.
Masters. Composites, stay there for 2 years, then applied. Then before you know it, here I am, Rice University.
Professor.
3.5 years later, with Professor Jayan and Junlu, now heading to Oak Ridge National Lab. So we'll see how that one turns out.
So are you going to be a postdoc there, or are you
Not really. I don't know. They are not really calling it like a postdoc. They are calling it like advanced short-term research.
What do you study here?
Oh, now you don't. So basically, generally, nano composites. So like, say for instance, you want to make like a sculpture, small sculpture from wood. What do? You're going to chop that wood until you get whatever you want, right? That has been the conventional way of doing things. Design material. That's the conventional way. But currently, there's a new paradigm. What happens if we go the other way around? So instead of chipping these woods, now we assemble these woods slowly until we get the stuff we want, like Legos. So a good example is like
Instead of going from top
exactly
down, bottom up.
Bottom up. So that's the word, bottom up assembly. So that's what I've been doing. So I've been trying to look at all these, this nanomaterial you call 0 dimension, 1 dimension, 2 dimension, and then trying to play around with them, chemistry wise, modify them, and then try to see if you can be able to assemble 3-dimension structure from these materials. And that's what I've been doing for the last 3.5 years, and we've been successful. So we've designed material from like graphene oxide, HBN, hexagonal boron nitrides, carbon nanotubes, silicon dioxide, so many stuff, bacteria combination with carbon nanotubes, lots of stuff.
Yeah, and the
Lots of stuff.
biomimetic things.
Yes. So the thing is, if you look at it from the way we've been, just like what I explained to you, the way we've been doing things, majority of biological stuff are bottom-up assembly. So then when we were trying to do these things, we were like, okay, so this is how the synthetic materials are made. What about the biological aspect of it? How do material survive? How do they make the material? So for instance, one work we did was we looked at this solid liquid system. If you pressure changes depth, right? A typical human, if we take you 150 meters down the sea, now we've not given you any protection. You'll be crushed to death because of pressure. But there are some whales which can survive all the way up to 4,500 meters. So the question is why? Forget about the biological adaptation. Only focus on the physical adaptation. So it turns out the adaptation starts all the way from the skin. It's all about liquids. They use liquids. Why? Because liquids are not compressible. You can't compress the liquids. So what these animals have done is, it's a very hierarchical arrangement. So from the top of the skin, you have these big spheres. As you go down and down, they keep on reducing size. So in an essence, there is no way these animals is going to be crushed to death. And then again, another good thing we notice is majority of their lungs, ours is more air, theirs is more liquid. That's why they cannot be crushed, because the liquid is incompressible. So once we saw that, we were like, okay, can we be able to mimic the same stuff like that one? So we were looking for liquids with very high bulk viscosity, and that's why we ended up with the liquid made of gallium.
Oh, I love that experiment.
Yes, so we took gallium and then put it into a polymerics, and then we found the mechanical properties to go up. So typically, conventionally, the way it is expected is because gallium is a liquid, the polymer is a solid. So it's expected that when you reinforce the polymer with the liquid, your mechanical properties should go down. But for this one here, it's completely different. It's the other way around.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yes. So from there, I did the like the synthetic, the zero dimension, the carbon nanotubes, blah 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 blah. Then came to the biomimetic stuff, and then from there we moved to hybrid type of structures. Because the thing is, there's no way we can beat the natural world, right? So the best thing we can do is, let us use some of what the natural world is giving us, and then combine it with our own synthetic way. So that's how we came up with this plastic from eggs.
Yeah, that one's always fun.
Yes, it's
Professor Agine always goes, "Oh, Peter's working with eggs."
Yeah.
Oh, wait, he's cooking them? No.
Yes, that was interesting. Without cooking.
What do you do outside of the lab?
I went to all the big cities in Texas. So I've been to Austin, I've been to Dallas, I've been to, El Paso, all these states in Texas. You just want to go there, stay 1 or 2 weekends, and the good thing about the US is, everything is not that expensive. You can easily afford it if you rent a car, and then you are 2 or 3 of you guys. You can just have road trips. So I like traveling, so I've done all those stuff. And then if I'm not doing that one, sometimes, kind of like go to the beaches. Galveston, I don't know how many times I've gone to Galveston.
Really?
Yes, so many times.
But you have beaches in Kenya, don't you?
We do, but ours is Kenya is a crazy. I don't know if you can say crazy. It's our beaches are not like the way the beaches are designed here, right? Most of the beaches there is private properties. So under the public beaches there, it's just pandemonium. if you try to go there, there's no space to walk. Because it is the only one. It's the only open space which has been left, which is owned by the government. Now everybody wants to go there. So that's what I do. And then every weekend, sports and everything, I always go out, watch sports, Buffalo Wild Wings, watch football, soccer. They always say when you go to Rome, you behave like the Romans.
When you come to America, you behave like the Americans.
When I came to America, I had no clue what was football. We have rugby there. Football is more like it's another version of rugby, but the rules are completely different. So
you find it more
exactly. So when I came here, I had to learn some of that. Rugby, you just get a ball. People just run with the ball. There's no quarterback. There's nothing like that. Everybody's a quarterback. But here, so you come to realize, there's one person who's supposed to throw the ball. There's another team which is defending. Like 2 teams playing in one sport. If you go somewhere where you don't come from, it serves you better for you to integrate. It's important, The moment people always lose their mind, and then they cannot survive with those guys who refuse to integrate. Because when you come here, for instance, you come to Rice, you have to be a Rice student. You have to abide by those rules. You have to adapt to what Rice wants you to be. If you go to Harvard, it's the same. It's the same thing like the way we move. So if you come from here, I come from Africa, I come to the US, I must adapt to this culture. You have no choice. That's how life is. Because if you try to say, oh no, I just want to be the way I used to be, life, it's different, completely different. There's some things you might see here, when you back there, they're unheard of. But this is their culture. So you just have to stick to it, and you just have to love it and appreciate it. That's it.
Wow. Is there something about Kenya that you miss though, coming here?
Kenya, you always miss the parties.
Really?
Our parties are crazy, I tell you.
We don't party like the Kenyans.
No. We don't. Kenyans, I remember the first time I came to the US, so we go out with some guys, they're like, we need to go to a club. I'm like, that's cool. So, and then we asked the guy, so it was me and one guy from Nigeria. So we asked this guy, so what time are you coming to pick us up? He's like, I will come something like 9-ish or something. We're like, what? 9? Man, 9, where are we going? That's too early. That's more the typical time, because the party started to get nice around 11. We're like, what? 11? Then we had this idea. We were like, then this is the best. If the party starts to at 11, this is a nice place. So we go. Then around 2:30, we see people leaving. So we ask these guys, our host, we are like, what's going on, man? Why is everybody leaving? It's like, oh, the party's over. They have to shut off everything by like 2:45. What do you mean 2:45? You have to shut off everything? Yeah, that's the system here. They're like, what am I supposed to do from that time until 6 in the morning or something like that? Because ours is completely different. Our clubs, we party until we see the sun.
Oh, but that probably dates way back in your history too.
Yeah, of course, that's how it is. So there, typically we go
We
to
don't really
clubs
have a
from
history in America.
like midnight. That's when we start going to clubs. That's when the clubs start to like 2
Really,
a.m.
really
That
start
2 a.m.
happening.
when you guys are closing clubs here. That's when it's like at the peak. So that was a really, really huge cultural shock. I was like, oh my god. So that's why from that time on I stopped going to clubs in America completely.
They're just boring.
No, what am I supposed to do after? See, you've been drinking.
They fall
And
asleep.
assuming that you've been drinking, you've been doing all these things, then you close the stuff at 2. So first of all, it's too much trouble. Even if you get to your house, what are you supposed to do? There's no way you can sleep at that
Yeah,
time.
you have to wake up soon anyway.
Exactly. So, that's why I was like, this is wasted of time. So the best thing we do this day, we just go, have some few drinks, then by 9,
Just
10,
relax.
11, 10, 11, you're back in your house. Typical, it's just like a typical. Unless it's a special function or something like that, and then I'll go. Otherwise, nope.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, that's it.
Man, Africa has way more fun.
Oh, you should come.
Right.
You will lose your mind. Yeah, see, I'm telling you.
This is what I actually really loved about grad school. Kind of a side thing that I didn't consider was the international presence
Mhm.
and all the people you meet from
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yes.
And so
It's
now,
an amazing experience. by the
right?
way.
Now I have someone from Kenya,
You have someone from
China,
Brazil.
India, Brazil. Yeah.
And it's good because the good thing about it is, you get to know how people think, like different,
Yeah.
Because the
You
way,
get some new
for
perspective.
instance, the way I will solve a problem is not the same way Marco will solve it. It's
Yeah.
not the same way Keiko will solve it from
Yeah.
Japan. It's not the same way somebody else from Russia will solve it. So it's completely, you get a mix.
I think that's the
And that's
really
why
beautiful
that's why
thing.
it's always,
Especially in our group.
exactly, and that's why I always advise people, I don't know if I ever told you this one. Every time you come to do research in grad school, 75% is supposed to be your work. 25% is supposed to be collaboration. That's the number.
It's a magic number.
It's a magic number.
Golden ratio.
75% your work, 25% collaboration. That's how you develop as a person. Because the thing is, if you come in and then you're just stuck on your own work, you will only know A. For instance, if you're doing your recycling battery. Let's say you come in and then you just stick to yourself, stick to your locker, do everything by yourself, you don't collaborate. At the end of the day, you'll be living here 4 or 5 years later. You will only have developed your brain, but your social development will have stunted, completely stunted. And in this life, when they give you an option to develop your brain or to develop your social, your social aspect of your life, always go for your social aspect of life. That's what gets you somewhere,
Yeah.
not your brain.
Yeah.
Your-
The transferable
The
skills.
exactly. The people who succeed in this world are those people who are social outgoing. You might be the brightest person the world has ever seen, but if you are social inept, you will go nowhere. Chances are you will end up in a company, and then they will end up and put you in a cube somewhere. So your job is just to do the typical
Like a
job,
robot.
like a robot. And those guys who are social, they're the ones who will be sent out. We need you to go and talk to company A. We need you to go and talk to company C. We need you to go talk to company this one. And that's how you develop. How do you, Kima, how do you walk in a conference, whatever, not a conference? How do you walk in a room, you don't know anybody, and you can start a conversation?
Yeah. Approach people. Yeah.
Approach people and make a conversation. That is the biggest,
Make connections
that's the
early.
most important skill. Look at our boss.
Yeah.
A giant can walk in any room, he does not know anybody, and they will make conversation and they will start like a real conversation. And it's not about research. It's not about science, because he knows how important that one is.
So what is the most important thing you think you learned in grad school?
You have to condition yourself to know that it's not about the PhD program alone. I'm here to develop as a person. I'm here, first of all, you are here to, and another thing is, we are always come here to develop as mentors also. Because at the end of the day, when you graduate with your PhD, remember the core thing why the PhD was developed was to train mentors. It's just recently that people have started going to industry and stuff like that. But the PhD program was designed to train people to come and train other people. That was the main issue. It was not designed for us to finish, run to industry, make money, and then forget about it. So that's it. So I've learned so many things. I've learned how to, talk to people. I've learned how to be patient. I've learned how to prioritize, which is the most important thing. How do you prioritize all these things, coming at you like a train? Everything is coming together at the same time. How do you know, I need to do this, I need to do this, I need to do this? I've learned how to work with, bosses. How do you work with the bosses? How do you make your boss happy? Always give more than 110%. That's what happened. For example, even our boss. So it's been an amazing experience for me. I will say it. For me, I really don't look at it like, I'm going to get a PhD or academics. Because even academics, there are some people who don't have PhDs. But they might know better than you.
Yeah.
In the same area what you're doing right now. Because the PhD is just a piece of paper. Written your name there, PhD. That's it. When you are walking around in the streets, how many people will know that you have a PhD? Very few people. But if you're outgoing and then you are a good person, but how many people will know? Like everybody. The whole of your neighbor will know. Oh, Kima, she's so nice. You see? That's how things are. People will know. She's so nice. She can do everything for you and stuff like that. People are not really going to care. Like, she has a PhD. No. That should always come later. People should find out later. Oh, she's a PhD.
I remember that was one of the first things you told me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the name was always secondary to what
Yes.
the person themselves.
Yes.
I think you were the person that told me that in almost the very first week I met you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'd ask you, what was the person's name? He's like, oh, I don't know, it wasn't
No.
important.
No. As a PhD student, when you come in, your first 2 months, you're supposed to dedicate your first 2 months to understand your advisor. What does your advisor want? What does your advisor like? Because most people fail in PhD not because they were stupid. If you look at my GRE score, you will be shocked. I barely survived. But because they looked at other criteria, they knew he will survive in grad school. And here I am. They know you have the qualities to succeed. So the only difference is, how are you going to? It's like, this place is like politics, How are you going to survive, How do you make it to the promised land? PhD has a time limit. You don't have forever unless you are in theoretical physics. 10 years. You have to be smart, just like what your brother is telling you. Work smart, not hard. Oh, my project is so hard. Nobody gives a damn about it. Why? Because at the end of the day, we are all going to be judged the same. After 5 years, how many publications did you have? And that's the metric for all the PhD. And that's how we are judged. Whether you are in sociology, whether you are in history, whether you are in physics, whether you are in I don't know where, that's the same metric. A smart PhD student, you have to divide your PhD work into 3. You have that one which this one might work or might not work, like an average. Then you have in the middle where you say, this one here, I am 80%. And then you have those ones like, the other idea, this one will work no matter what, whether it is rain or sunshine, this one will work. And then you position yourself, you are like, okay. So, the rule is position yourself to get 3 papers in each, right? So 3 papers in this one which will work automatically. What does it mean? Even if the rest doesn't work, you already have 3 papers. That is enough for activities. You graduate. Now, if these ones, remember for these ones which will work, you will automatically have those papers, right? So the ones which you are 80%, one will work. Paper 4. The one which is really hard, that one you are like, okay, you know, if something works, fine. You get another paper, 5 chapters, you're gone, done, finish.
And that's what you
supposed
did.
to- Of course, that's what I did.
You're getting out of here. Oak Ridge, here you come.
Yes, Oak Ridge, yeah. That's what I did.
Aw, we're gonna miss you, Peter. Who am I gonna talk to about all these things?
I'll be here. I'm just a phone call away, right?